You built the business. Now, build the man. This is the Ben Price Experience.
Stuart,
Good morning.
good morning. Who are you and why are you here?
Great question. What esoterically, why are we here? I'm Stuart Holcroft. I'm father of two young boys, both at university. Husband of what sounds like the Gladiator film, doesn't it? And I've got two dogs I'm looking after currently. Although everybody's fled from the house apart from me during the week, at least. So I'm very much an independent in every sense of the word entrepreneur. Ex-forces. I was in the Royal Air Force for 22 years. Left when I started to be more occupied with writing things on a computer than actually doing anything what I would call meaningful. So left at that stage to become an independent business person, doing all sorts of things with the brain. So I got fascinated with the human brain, what we can and can't do. So I discovered psychology as a psychologist, NLP coaching, hypnosis, timeline therapy, heart math breathing, and lots of other things as well. And also a range of drug-free wearable neurotech devices, which is starting to become much more mainstream. And perhaps we'll touch on it today, perhaps we won't. But my thing is very much about respecting other people, being kind to other people, and also giving them the best opportunity to flourish. So when we'll talk today perhaps about working together with others, I'm very much a collaborative person rather than a competitive person.
All right. Awesome. And what was the kind of, what was like a big defining moment, if there was one, or maybe it was a series of them, that kind of has led to you to be in this kind of space and in this work that you're in?
Really bizarrely, it came about when in Afghanistan, and I was doing a psychology course within university and studied what it's like to be an armed forces person in a combat zone. So whilst speaking with people and thinking, but I'm there as well, and I need to understand more about this. I got involved with the Warrior program, which is the helping people with post-traumatic stress disorder as a coach, and just the fundamental changes I was able to make whilst serving at the same time was just phenomenal. And I discovered the power of what's called talking therapies, because there's no physical hands-on stuff, so it's all talking and changing the way the brain works. The extreme power of doing that, and it's one chap in particular who I will talk about the kind of things that he experienced, but no details, if that's okay. A chap who, 1982, the Falklands War, he felt responsibility for not doing something, which led to the deaths of lots of people in the area that he was responsible for. I won't name the service for anything else, because that might narrow it down. So he blamed himself for not spotting the threat coming in. And for years and years, like 30, nearly 40 years, he blamed himself for the deaths of those other people. And every time he's mentioned the Falklands, lots of other trigger words as well, he would curl up on the floor and be just completely useless as a person. Lots of children, lots of relationships, failed and successful. And within other people had done some work beforehand and lots of other free training things. And I had him in a room for just half an hour, 30 minutes. And we did some really in-depth brain training stuff. And to see the change in him in just that half an hour from where he was beforehand with all the preconditioning, it was just fundamentally life-changing for me as a coach and facilitator. So I got more and more involved, looked further into the brains and how they work and the different functional areas, and just became obsessed with the brain. So that was kind of the really pivotal moment, was that one chap who I helped to just change his life. And I just thought, that's what I want to do. And whilst I was still serving at the time, I thought I'd much rather be doing that than writing staff papers in a headquarters, frankly.
Wow. Amazing. And can you give us an idea of what that half an hour looked like? What was the process that you kind of went through with him, or?
Yeah, so it's a thing called timeline therapy. So we talked about. It started off with timeline therapy is about flying above your timeline and seeing things down below and basically living outside of the actual memories you've got. Because the more times we replay memories, the more it becomes real and vivid. So we're constantly living through that thing, which makes it even more hardwired in your brain. So what timeline therapy is about divorcing yourself from the event and just taking the learnings and lessons from it. And one of the things that has to happen is you've got to kind of get above your timeline. And when we started off, he said, I'm scared of flying. I don't want to get above my timeline. So I thought, well, lots of people have tried the nicey approach, and I just thought, you know what? Let's sit down. I'm going to call him Kevin. It's not his Kevin. It's not Kevin. So Kevin, sit down. I'm your commanding officer. Sit down, put your feet on the floor, get yourself up to about 20,000 feet blank, and just went really authoritarian and dictatorial to him. And he just accepted it because I just thought, well, these other approaches haven't worked. Let's go and do it. So timeline therapy, you basically fly above your timeline, go back to the time when you felt a real negative experience, and you change your relationship with that emotion. And then you float back in time once the emotion's removed. And it's a fairly simple process as long as you get the correct things in place at the correct time. So you don't go back and relive it. You take away the emotion, then you go back inside of it. Fairly simple process, and it's kind of script driven. And when people have experienced it, they come back and say, I can't remember. And a few examples of things like that is very, very briefly, a young lady, 82 years old lady, was scared stiff of needles. So she had to go and have a blood test. She couldn't bear the thought of needles. And we talked about her past. And she had some pretty traumatic experiences with needles and being held down and puncture marks all down her arm and things like this. And I changed her relationship to such an extent that she could not physically remember, which is an oxymoron, because you don't physically remember things, you mentally remember things. So she couldn't actually remember the times when she was held down, blood all over the place. Her mother was calling her a stupid whatever. All she could remember when I talked about needles was a field of daffodils waving in the breeze and the smell of it. And she immediately was finished after this. I think it was 45 minutes. She said, right, I've got to go and ring the hospital now to get my blood test done. Fantastic. So and lots of experiences like that over the years, which is an amazing thing to experience and be part of.
Wow. Yeah, that's impactful and powerful thing to experience. Yeah.
And it's amazing. Apart from obviously the few years where we couldn't physically meet people, it's just amazing to feel the release from people. And I know you're very much one getting connected with nature, and I think it's the same with people as well, because you can emit an aura of impenetrability, defensiveness, whatever else. But once that barrier is down, then you can feel that empowering energy, and you can. So I used to, at the end of a session, I used to stand in front of people and just look at them and say, "Convince me that you're fixed," and you can feel it. There's a palpable shift in their energy, their flow. And sometimes I've looked at things like colors around them, call it an aura, if you like. And are auras real? I don't know. But I've certainly imagined some sort of shape around people which shows that they've been freed from their limiting things. So yeah, it's very, very, very empowering when you've helped somebody through something that's been a lifelong problem for them.
Yeah. How do you find there's a difference between the techniques or not so much the techniques, but the ease of coaching men versus women? Like, what do you find any difference between the two, especially like ex-military guys in particular?
I find that women are more easily receptive to the process to start with, but it's not all women, because that's a massive generalization. Men
And it's
take a
probably not
little
all
bit
men
more.
either.
No, exactly. So some men take a bit more convincing. Funny enough, the demographic I've had the most problem with my coaching is female lawyers, and they refuse unconsciously to let you have what they perceive to be control of their brains. So they are what I've found personally is the most reluctant demographic group of people is just female lawyers. Male military people, generally, if you have the surroundings and the conditions correct, I find they're very accepting. It's only if you try to force them into something they don't want to do that they become quite resistant as well. But yeah, equally, I've had problems with male IT technicians. Because they equate their brains to the hard drive of a computer. And again, they're reluctant to let you into the wiggly wobblies in their perception. But yeah, everybody's different. And it would be unfair of me to typecast people into a demographic group. Some people are receptive, some people aren't. But yes, to get through
I suppose I was wondering how your approach might change, or whether one's more suited to a gender or a type of person.
Yeah, the only thing I have is a different set of tools available to me. So I might go one route, and I look at people's tells. So most people have a tell at the outside of their eyes. So you can see just the what they call the crow's nest area at the outside of the eyes. You can, if you're attuned to it, you can see that changing when people accept what you're talking about or what you're introducing as a concept. So if people don't change, then I just know that that approach isn't going to work. Then I'll flip to a different approach. So perhaps incorporate a bit of hypnosis or that type of thing to just introduce a difference. And then once I've got that bit, then we can go back and do the script.
Interesting. Yeah. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's
now I'm looking at the corners of your eyes, wondering.
No, I know. And again, you can just feel the difference of some people. And I struggled with it when we went online. I think I did one session with somebody online, and I just didn't get all the same visual and kinesthetic cues from people, and I found it really hard to coach. The people that I did work with felt that they got the result they wanted, but I just said, no, it doesn't work for me. So I'd much rather work with people in personal contact. Having said that, I've changed my offering fundamentally since lockdowns anyway. But yes, certainly before lockdown, found it really easy to access people, often the couple of demographic groups that didn't quite perhaps work. But again, that's me perhaps presuming that I would find that group different anyway, or harder to work with. So perhaps me just going, it's female lawyers, and therefore it's going to be tricky, has led me to not get a great result.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So it's like an unconscious bias that you have. Yeah. What does it mean to be a masculine man in this day and age?
Interesting question, because I don't think I've ever been a truly masculine man in terms of the depends how you define masculinity. But what the phrase masculinity has become to be accepted is the kind of person that would go out on the street and stand up for what he believed in, or what the common thing was. You can imagine them being part of a football crowd or part of a very visual and noisy protest on the streets. But equally, I also think that a masculine person would be the one that would stand back, watch out for the threats, and protect others without having to overly tub thump. So I think that's kind of me looking behind the scenes, just looking out and just thinking, well, I'm going to look for the threats, and if something needs to happen, then I will make it happen. And the number of times I've been in situations where, because of military training, you suddenly think, okay, if this all kicks off, what I'm going to do now is bang, bang, bang. And therefore you kind of Yeah, I remember going on patrols where you're looking at, if something happens now, where do we go? So it's always that kind of preempting thing. But so the masculinity that you talk about isn't just from a military environment. It's from all sorts of experiences. I know I'm talking a lot right now, but I'm very introverted, and therefore I'm less likely to shout out in a crowd or to take part in a very boisterous male environment. But I know other people are very happy doing that. So what does it mean? It basically means about your own beliefs, your own values, your own background, and your start point in life very much shapes the way we are right now. And the masculinity, I believe, is driven from very early about what you perceive to be injustice or the correct way of doing things.
So your impression of masculinity is to stand up for the things you believe in.
I think you can encapsulate it quite nicely with that. Yeah, stand up for what you believe in.
I like that. In a way that perhaps isn't, because I think one of the things you even said there was boisterous, which I always think, well, from my understanding, there's kind of boy psychology and then there's man psychology, and and we never really have because we've lost ceremony, we've lost initiation in our culture. We don't have a defining moment where we stepped into that and understood what it meant to be that. So a lot of men are actually in boy psychology still, so they're boisterous. The someone shouting on the thing at the football or whatever, like it's kind of boisterous, I think is a good word.
Yeah. And I've covered.
Yes, he believes in it, but it's
yeah. So when I've been doing my sports psychology, so I'm a sports psychologist. I've been working with golfers. I've worked with some football players and some cricket and rugby players over the time, and it's about controlling the controllables, because you can't control everything around you. And my belief is, with football players in particular, that when they step onto the football pitch and they just be themselves, they turn back into a mental 5-year-old, in terms of they're not thinking like they do in a boardroom. They just think like a 5-year-old child, as I would put it. And in lots of sports as well, in situations like that, and when you add alcohol, it stops the filters that stop us from the filters that mean we don't swear in a boardroom or whatever. So when we've added the alcohol or the sports environment, our systems revert back to a 5-year-old child, I think.
Wow.
And sports are different, but I think football is a great leveler of just bringing. And I play football on Monday nights with a load of lads, and to listen to the conversation, I just laugh sometimes at the conversation that happens on the pitch that would not happen literally anywhere else. Yeah. So you're right. There is no line where you go. Like in some cultures, age of 13, you have a big celebration, and then you move into adulthood.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. I think it's great that we can have those times when we can just be present and ourselves and just say exactly what we think and feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Because most of us are wearing masks most of the time,
And they
I never really truly ourselves. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. So what, from a psychologist's point of view, what does alcohol do to the brain then? Or the soul,
I don't know the exact mechanism of what alcohol does, but what I believe is it reduces our inhibitions to allow our true self to come forward, and whether it's an unpalatable version of ourselves or a completely gregarious and outgoing version of ourselves, then that is the I believe that to be the truth of a person. So I think that when the inhibitions are down and you're being completely present and in the moment, that is the true self. And we see some people that you just think, oh my God, that guy's turned into a completely different version. But perhaps that's when metaphorically the masks are removed, and you get to see the true version of the person underneath.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And equally, there may be a difference between extroverted people and introverted people as well. I don't know, got no grounds for saying that, but there may well be a difference. Whereas an extrovert might become more extrovert, an introvert might become very repressed and angry because they haven't been listened to beforehand, or they haven't felt like they've been wanting to be listened to, and they might become more aggressive. Again, I've got no basis of scientific proof for saying this, but it may be that those things are in play. An extrovert might become more quiet. I don't know, but you'll get to see perhaps what is the true version of people with alcohol.
Yeah. So, because when you said that, I thought, well, that seems like a good thing. Obviously, there's some hangover and negative effects of alcohol, and some poisons that are kind of come along with the ride, I guess, and sugars and things. But actually, it would seem to be a good thing if people were being their true self. But then if you don't know who your true self is, and actually underneath your mask is a wounded child or a wounded person, then that's what comes up with the alcohol.
Yeah. And that could bring problems all of its own.
I almost want to get drunk because I haven't been drunk for ages. Like I kind of stopped drinking, but now I want to see what I'm like as a drunk person.
Make sure you record it on video. It's funny.
Yeah. For an analysis.
Perhaps there probably have been studies done of people and showing the effects of alcohol. There probably have been. I've just not been particularly aware of it. But yeah, it'd be an interesting thing to do, wouldn't it? To find the true self.
Yeah, well, that's the journey I've been on in the last year, is to understand, well, last few years really, and it never stops. You keep getting closer and closer to who that is, but really, it's a mountain with no top.
Absolutely, and false summits.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you often think, oh, this is it, and then you find out something else. You're like, oh, wow.
The number of times
Cool.
we've both been on walks, right? Where's the top? It's just over this crest. It's just over this crest.
Yeah.
It's just round.
Yeah.
Where's the pub? Just round the corner. Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you have any insight into like the effect of nature on the brain? And you sort of mentioned that earlier.
In terms of insight, again, I've kind of dabbled with the transfer of electrons and energy and frequencies amongst people, and also the times when I've personally been exposed to the outdoors. I'm not the kind of person that normally walks outside with bare feet, but I know that some other people that do that swear they gain energy, grounding, and power from the ground. It's only because where I live, it's there's lots of wild animals around here, and I'm pretty sure I get some nasty things on my feet if I did that. But yeah, in terms of being with nature, we talked beforehand about the thoughts that come to us when we're surrounded by nature, as opposed to being in an office environment, which frankly is not stimulating. So, just having a few plants around the room will help in some way, with just clearing negative energy, and talk about feng shui and talk about the power of nature and whatever else. They all change the way that we operate, and plants give us oxygen. And the more oxygen we have in our blood system, the better we perform. So you speak to any elite athletes, talk about the power of oxygen and the power of breathing and good blood conditions, then they'll say, absolutely, the more oxygen, the better. So the more we can be around nature, which obviously exudes oxygen as an output of photosynthesis, then we're getting more and more exposure to oxygen. So that's one very positive thing. And also again, I don't know where this belief of mine is from, but every living being emits electrons. So we are changing electrons. And if I know somebody particularly well, I'll just say to them, let's exchange electrons. People just think, oh, that sounds really weird. It sounds like, whatever. But you are when you hug somebody or touch them, you are exchanging electrons, because that's what physically happens with beings. So when you're around trees or plants or whatever wildlife, you will exchange that energy flow with them. And then the flow of energy is frequencies, it's electrons, it's all the things that keep us alive and working. So when we talk about how the brain works, our brain works in flows of frequency of energy. You've probably heard about studies about how we sleep. So we go to sleep with a certain wavelength of activity. When we've got gamma energy in our brains, that's when we're most alert. When we're going to beta and theta, that's when we start to slow down a little bit and start to relax. So the more we're exposed to nature, which normally doesn't exude gamma energy, it's more relaxing. So therefore we can relax around nature and therefore gain that calming effect from those activities. So when you talk about sitting around in the woods, it has a more calming effect on the human brain and the body, because we're all connected, and therefore you can feel more relaxed, calmer, without the pressures. Put your phone away, because they exude the different kinds of electricity and energy. So just getting back to nature, camping in the trees, in the woods, around the fire. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love that you're bringing the scientific kind of reasoning. I mean, I know that all of that's true just from my own experiences of probably not so much being in nature for me, but actually being out of it. Like, you put me in I've just been in a hotel room for 3 days, doing a business, retreat. And it's like, and it was, nice thing about it was actually quite open and we could see trees. So I've definitely been in worse locations, where there are no windows and there are no trees. But the one thing that really annoyed me about this place we were at was it was a golf course, and you couldn't walk around the golf course or unless you were playing golf. So in the afternoon I drove to a woodland nearby and just went for a run. I was like, I need a dose. I need my dose, because it's just. But yeah, definitely. Like I wonder if some people are more affected by that than others, because I feel very, very affected by that. But I think like I say, it's a deficit of it rather than. And it's kind of the same thing. But I notice the deficit more than I notice the healing effects.
Yeah, you do. So I used to work with a chap who he was about 10 years older than me, I think he was at the time, but he went running every single day. And I said, why do you run so much? He said, because I get stir crazy if I haven't been for a run on that particular day. So you get used to the endorphins and the hormone release that your body emits when you're doing those activities that are good for you, or you perceive to be good for you. And I'm pretty convinced that I could create a scenario in which you could, or anybody could, retreat inside their own mind, create the sounds, the feeling, the tactile touches that would mimic those activities that you enjoy doing, and you will probably gain exactly the same effect on your brain and your body. So again, just, if you imagine your feet on the carpet and you imagine that to be a bed of moss, and you're standing in it, and you imagine the sounds, and you try to amplify all the little sounds that you would hear, that might have a similar effect.
But then there's no electron exchange.
No, there's no electronic exchange, but from within. So you're changing the way your hormones react, which is the dear thing.
Yeah.
The other thing you're missing is that interaction with nature. Exactly. And some of the hypnotic exchanges I've had with people, just about environment and physical feelings and things, they've come back in the room, if you like, and they've said, "Oh my, that was the most amazing experience." And you can see in their face, and you can feel in their lack of tension, just how relaxing it was for them. And yes, you haven't got the one element missing from that is the physical connection with the limits of nature.
Yeah. but you are connecting
connecting
to
to
consciousness when you do that. So I had a really amazing conversation with my meditation teacher the other day about the different levels of consciousness, and I still haven't quite wrapped my head around this, but the highest level of consciousness is unity consciousness, where you are the flower when you look at the flower, and you are the tree. And I suppose I think when you go into meditation, you are connecting with consciousness. So you are everything is everything. So then you would just create whatever you wanted to create in your meditation, wouldn't you? It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if the tree wasn't there, because you could just create it. You're still connecting with consciousness.
become the tree, and whether you could create the same off-gassing effect or of electrons from the tree is a different thing altogether, because we are differently wired, and we transpire rather than they transpire, we perspire. So there'd be a slight difference in that respect. But yeah, in terms of the oneness that a lot of people talk. Again, I've never been there either, so I've never experienced that. But I know that people would swear by it, and they, deeply meditate and become one with the world. It'd be lovely to be there. I don't know what.
My experience of it is using something called transcendental meditation. I don't know if you've come across that, and I've only been doing it for, I don't know, 6 months maybe, and it's amazing. It's the easiest meditation that I've ever done. It's incredible.
Yeah. I can meditate on a dog walk. I just literally take the dogs out and just suddenly realise, oh, where are the dogs? Just make sure they haven't done anything nasty and left some messages for somebody. And so you've got to be careful, haven't you, with where and when you do it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. So you reminded me just now of and I haven't like looked into this properly for a long time, but I went down a big rabbit hole with nutrition. So I used to own a gym, and I used to do like health and wellbeing transformations. So I was like really interested in nutrition and the effects that it was having, and then that kind of led me to the psychology side of everything, because really it's not so much, it is the food, like the food matters, but the reasons why we would eat something or not is really emotional. And then I kind of came across this idea that I can't even remember if I've just created this or if it was a real thing, but we actually judge the food that we're eating, and therefore the effect of the food is either useful or non-useful. I'm trying not to use good or bad, useful or non-useful for our body, but because of our projection of the judgment. So, and then there's this idea was that if you could actually train your brain to cast great judgment on a chocolate cake, you could survive off chocolate cake and be quite healthy from it, just because of the projection that you've put onto it. Now, obviously, I've never managed to do that. I don't really want to test it, but pretty incredible.
Yeah, there have been many studies done over time, and I can't quote them exactly because I haven't got the information to hand. But I know of some young children that have lived on toast alone, and they've grown and developed because they just would not eat anything else. And perhaps that's an element of neurodiversity and textures and things. I don't know, but I've heard of people that have survived on toast alone. There have been studies of young children which left in a room of eat whatever you want, literally anything on the spectrum of colours and textures and things. And the vast majority of young, like 3-year-old children, have chosen to go for the healthy options rather than the non-healthy options when they're left to make their own decision. I've also conducted a series of weight loss programs with people, and basically said to them, first of all, eat consciously, be aware of every single mouthful that you take, listen to your body, experience the textures and let your anticipation run wild and whatever else. But when you're full, you stop eating and you're very, very grateful for the end of it, which is based on that Paul McKenna thing that he did a few years back. But when you say to people, eat consciously, and to conscious choice of what you eat is very much a judgment of what it's going to give to you. I personally, this is one of the things that I really get on a hobby horse about sometimes. Broccoli. So people swear that they love eating broccoli, and I just think, just why? Why? It's just broccoli. It's just one of those things that
I like broccoli.
I do you, or have you become conditioned to eating it? Because actually,
Yeah,
the
maybe.
taste and the texture of it is if you overcook it, it's horrible, right? So if you eat it raw and you've got a dip on it or something, it's bearable. But
I cook it in butter.
I don't believe that anybody actually loves eating broccoli.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. But there's so many good benefits of eating broccoli, and it's quite a well documented thing.
And perhaps we are making a judgment as to what the benefits are when we're eating it, convincing ourselves it's good for us, therefore you create a different impression. But again, I've eaten all sorts of things in my varied careers, and I'm not averse to having eaten some form of roadkill, whatever else, if it's prepared correctly. But yeah. In terms of nutrition, I do think that if we make a value judgment, and I know of some people that hold foods against them, or they literally take the food and they hold it against their heart area, and they get a signal from their heart whether it's good for them or not. I know other people that just look at things and they decide what their body needs right now. Think about ladies in pregnancy, for example, who will, they'll create the taste inside their body that says, I'm craving whatever. And that, I believe, where you're looking after another person inside of your body, is when you are truly connected to the foods that we're eating, or the things that we put inside our mouths that give us the sense that we're doing the right thing. Clearly,
it's really
we can't experience that. But if we are truly connected and don't, a lot of people go to the garage or supermarket and they go, I need some food, I'm just starving, dink, 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 and then eat it unconsciously. They're the ones that tend to not be in the best of health.
Yeah, even if it's healthy food that they're eating, healthy.
Yeah. Broccoli, for example.
Yeah, unconsciously eating broccoli. So the true kind of answer to that question of healthy eating and nutrition, and probably most things, I think, and I'm sure you kind of agree with this, is consciousness and being conscious of what you're doing, because most of the things that we're conditioned to do are kind of detaching us from consciousness, and the closer you can become to it, the more you can be guided by it.
Absolutely.
And the easier life becomes.
Yeah. And again, this is a bit about the military background again, because in the military we often don't have choices as to what we can get to eat, especially in a field somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And you get used to the fact that you eat what you eat in order to sustain yourself and survive. And whether that has an impact on later life, which means that people get used to not having choices to make, and therefore it's hard to break that cycle of just taking what you've got at the time, is a whole thing in itself.
It's a thing I think about a lot, because I don't think you can be aligned with your consciousness and aware of your consciousness and kill someone.
Another topic altogether. Absolutely. And I look at what's happening in America right now about pro-life, and the thoughts whirring in the head, and very occasionally I've been engaging very slightly in conversations on Facebook with some people that you think, I'm never going to change your opinion, but I'll just put one thought into the system to make you think differently, and they just I would stop abortions, and I also want everybody to have guns. Okay.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I think we better wrap this up, because we could keep on talking for a long time, actually. I've just realised the time. Thank you. Yeah. We'll definitely get you around a campfire at some point for sure. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're very
Oh, by
welcome.
the way, if anyone wants to find out more about you, where do they go? And we didn't even talk about the actual thing we were going to talk about, which was the patches that you're doing. So if you want to quickly explain what that is.
Yeah, sure. So,
Feel free.
Stuart Holcroft on LinkedIn is the best point of contact. I have these little patches that designed by a computer programmer that but Ben and I touched on frequencies and information from the brain and the body. Obviously, the gut's got so the stomach's got 40,000 neurons in it, and the heart's got neurons in it, and we're changing the communication going through to the brain, which means that the brain can be relaxed, in control, more balanced and in homeostasis, which means that we can perform better. Our brains and bodies will work better as well. If you want to know more, please connect with me on LinkedIn, Stuart Holcroft. I'm probably the top one of the searches, I think, currently. And obviously from Ben's podcast, you can find out some more information as well.
You're the good-looking one on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
That's what I always say.
Shucks.
All right. Thanks very much, Stuart. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Take care.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Ben Price Experience. These conversations are not just entertainment. They are also an invitation to confront the truth about what you are experiencing in life right this moment. An opportunity to upgrade your standards, to lead from a more powerful, grounded place. If some of these messages hit home, then maybe it is time to go deeper into who you are and who you are being. For men, I run a camp called the CEO Camp Out, or Campochi. You might have heard of me refer it to. You can find it at www.ceocampout.com. This is time off grid with other men who are refusing mediocrity. We ditch our phones. We be honest about what's going on in our lives. We connect with one another. We have delicious food, fire, hiking, playing around in the woods. It's really, really powerful, relaxing experience. You'll get challenged in a positive way, but you'll walk away from it the most clear you've probably ever been in a long time, and the most relaxed you've ever been in a long time. So check out the website ceocampout.com, and if you want to inquire as to how to work with me, just drop me a message at Coach Ben Price, and I'd love to just connect with you if you've been impacted by anything in the podcast, not necessarily to work with each other, but just to connect, just to help in any way and serve in any way that I can. All right, lots of love and thanks for listening. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us elevate. If you would leave a comment as well, that would be amazing, and share it with somebody who you think would be impacted by the message in this episode. All right, lots of love. See you soon.